make sauerkraut, which I really love. It's crunchy, it's salty, it's sour. It goes really well cooked down into soups, thrown in a potato salad. You can really do a lot with sauerkraut, and it lasts for a very long time in the fridge. So sauerkraut starts with just cabbage and salt, and that's it. And if you want to add any other flavorings, you are welcome to. It's your sauerkraut. You can add shredded carrots, you can add chili flakes, you can add any spices or flavorings that you'd like. So to start with, I have a purple cabbage. You can use purple, you can use green, you can use whatever you want. I usually take the outer leaf off just because it usually has, you know, some wilted parts. We want like the really crispy parts of the cabbage. So I'm going to put this aside for now. Some people use that top leaf on the very top of their sauerkraut to keep the rest of it submerged. And so you can hold on to it if you want to do it that way. And I'm going to cut the sauerkraut into fine ribbons, but not too thin because we want the pieces to still have some bite to them. Usually I try to cut out the little tough core in a cabbage as well. It's not super important with sauerkraut because it's going to soften anyway, but, you know, have it. Okay, so I'm going to start with this for now, and then once this shrinks down, I might add the rest of the cabbage, but my bowl only holds so much. So I've cut it into pieces that look like this. They're not super thin. You can use a food processor or a mandolin if you prefer. I like cutting it by hand, but it's up to you. Some of them are a little thinner, some of them are a little thicker, but this is overall what they look like. The ratio of salt for sauerkraut is 3 tablespoons of salt for every 5 pounds of vegetable. And this cabbage was just under 4 pounds. And so I'm going to do just over 2 tablespoons of salt for this particular cabbage. And my plan is to add the rest of the cabbage once this reduces a little bit. So I'm using kosher salt, which doesn't have any iodine or anti-caking agents in it. You can use kosher salt or sea salt or any other salt as long as it doesn't have those additives which might inhibit the fermentation process. So you want a salt that is just salt, nothing else. And this next part is very important. I'm going to massage the salt into the cabbage with very clean hands for about 5 to 10 minutes until the juices start to come out of the cabbage, which you'll start to see right away. And once we do that, we'll let it sit for about 4 hours to let even more of the juices come out. And then we're going to pack it into a jar. So we're about 4 hours later in our sauerkraut making process, and you can see that the cabbage has wilted a bunch, it's shrunken down, and this includes that final quarter of a cabbage that I didn't chop up on the video, but I did afterwards. That's all in here as well. So now that it's much softer, it's much more pliable, and a lot of the juices have been released, we can now transfer this into a clean jar. And to do that, we'll want to stuff it as full as we can. And so after I start putting some cabbage in, I'm gonna use my fist to push it all the way down into the jar. So the cabbage fit into this 32-ounce jar from top to bottom. We now have a very full jar of kraut. And this is all of the liquid that came directly from the cabbage. Remember, I didn't add any filtered water yet. So this is all cabbage juice with salt, and I'm just going to add it all in. Like with all the other vegetables, you want the brine to fully cover your vegetables. So if there wasn't enough liquid release, you can add a little bit of filtered water. And I'll need to add some salt to keep the brine ratio, the salt to water ratio, what it was. I'm just going to sprinkle some on top. And that'll also help me out because now the surface of the vegetables will be a little extra salty, which might inhibit any mold or yeast growth. And then I'm going to top it with my airlock lid and leave it in a relatively cool, dark place for 24 hours, and I'll check in on it again tomorrow. It's 24 hours later, which means it's time to check in on our sauerkraut. If all went according to plan, the liquid and the vegetables should all be pushed up towards the top because of all the bubbles now forming, because of all of the bacteria doing their thing. So if I open this, bring this closer, but it's much more full than it was when we packed it yesterday. And that's a really good sign. That means it's working. So I'm going to take a clean spoon and gently push everything back down. And a lot of bubbles are going to be coming up to the surface. As I do that. So I'm just being very careful not to spill everything all over my counter. And I'm going to do this little pushing activity every day for a few days, only 2 or 3 days, until the sauerkraut tastes how I want it to. So I can pull a little piece out. Still tasting pretty raw and salty, so we'll let it go for a few more days.